Ladies and gentlemen, we're joined now by Kentucky head coach John Calipari, as well as student athletes Andrew Harrison, Tyler Eulis, and Carl Anthony Towns. We'll ask Coach Calipari to begin with an opening statement. Then we'll take questions first for the student athletes.
This is a good win. I didn't like how we started the game. I didn't quite like how we finished the game, but it is 1 o'clock at night. And we had an overtime game where the guys were hanging out in the locker room for an hour and a half. So I'm going to chalk it up to that and move on.
We're looking for the first question for the student athletes from Kentucky. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll send the microphone attendant in your direction. Student athletes first, please. We have a question all the way to the right side in the front.
Greg Mengelt, CNHI. Carl Anthony, how much has, why do you think you've been able to become so much more consistent over the past month or so?
Give me stat sheets.
Just listening to my coaches, just using my size and just playing much better in the post.
Next question for the student athletes from Kentucky, please. If you have a question, please raise your hand. There's one on the left in the front.
Therese Walker, the Associated Press, for any of the three. Nice to at least get this game over, finishing up the first day of the tournament with such a late finish to the day.
We'll begin with Andrew, then Tyler, then Carl Anthony.
Like Coach said, it was an overtime game before us. I mean, we didn't start the game, so that's no excuse. That's on me. I started off sluggish. Won't happen again.
Like he said, there was an overtime game and it's really late, but we got to play a lot better than that. Next game, we're going to, just play harder.
Like they both said, we just got to play better and we got to start off better.
Questions continuing for the student athletes from Kentucky. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Any further questions for the student athletes from Kentucky? There's one in the middle.
Nancy Armour, USA Today. What do you guys do when you're just sitting there? I mean, I saw you guys in the tunnel standing there for probably a good 10 minutes, 15 minutes, just waiting to take the court at the very end of the overtime game. But in the meantime, what do you do in the locker room, and how does that affect you as you're trying to prepare for the game?
Andrew first, then Carl Anthony, then Tyler, please.
I mean, to be honest, we were just all in the locker room, stretching, talking, trying to keep each other loose. That's pretty much it.
Carl Anthony.
Just like you said, we just stayed loose, walking around, just keep moving and just keep talking to each other.
Like they both said, just sitting there stretching, talking, making jokes, just waiting for us to play.
If you have a question for the student athletes, please raise your hand. Any further questions for the student athletes? All right, we'd like to thank Andrew, Carl Anthony, and Tyler for joining us in the main interview room. They're going to head back to the locker room, join their teammates. The Kentucky locker room is still open at this time. We're now looking for the first question for Coach Calipari. We have one right down in the front on the right side of the aisle. We'll use the left-hand microphone.
John, Darryl Bird with the Cat's Paws. Are you surprised at all the way your team started, 1 versus 16 and all that?
No, I mean, you sit in that locker room for that long, you kind of know that could happen. But one of the things I talked to them after, you're not going to do this on their terms. You can't start games like this. You can't do things that we talk about every day and you choose to do something else. You can't do things on your terms in this tournament, because what happens is you'll have a 12-point lead and then you'll turn around and it'll be a 2-point game. And you'll say, what just happened? Well, you broke down in 2 pick and rolls defensively, and then someone fouled, didn't need to, and all of a sudden they make a play and it's a 2-point game. You can't do stuff on your terms. You got to follow the script. Here's how we play. This is what we do. Here's the energy we play with. And we're able to play enough people that, okay, we start the game slow. I may sub earlier. I see it Saturday. I may sub 1 minute in. Boom, let's go. Need more energy. But I think these guys will be fine. They're a great group. What is circling them, the clutter is ridiculous, and they've handled it all year.
Continuing with questions for Coach Calipari, there's one in the left section right in the middle. Please remember your name and media outlet before your question.
TJ Walker, Rivals.com. John, what will be the schedule for tomorrow, not getting back to the hotel likely till 2 a.m. and having to prepare for Cincinnati?
We'll go a 10:30 breakfast for the team. During that breakfast, we'll probably show some stuff of tonight's game. I don't know exactly the practice time tomorrow, but I think it's 2. What time do we practice?
4:45.
So we have a 4:45 practice. Did they already announce the game time?
Not yet.
Yeah, it's 2:45 is what they said. I don't know if they've announced it or not, but that means that, we probably won't go real hard. I've watched Cincinnati probably a half now and then on the game. I didn't watch any of today's game, so I got some work to do with their tape. I know they play a lot of zone. They play hard. They play physical. Larry's done a great job with that team, and it's going to be a really hard game for us.
Continuing with questions for Coach Calipari, if you have one, please raise your hand. We'll send the microphone attendant to you. Any further questions for Coach? There is one in the back on the right-hand side.
Chris Johnson, Sports Illustrated. What do you appreciate most about Tyler Eulis's game?
Well, I called him in the other day, and I just said, I want you to know you're even better than I thought you'd be. I knew he'd be good. I didn't realize he'd be this good. Now, today, kind of tried to do stuff he doesn't do well. He passed up on some threes that he has to shoot for us to be good. But what you do appreciate is every day his energy is at a point, and he brings it every day. I love the fact that when he and Andrew play together, he's fine playing the point guard or two guard. He doesn't care, and he wants to win. He's a competitor.
Next question's all the way in the back, all the way to the right.
Jermaine Franklin with TSN. Coach, can you talk a little bit about the defense stepping up, especially in that first half, and what is it like probably for other teams when they're facing the size that you guys are?
Well, what they ended up doing was trying to hold the ball a little while and then tried to drive it, whether it was off a pick and roll or an ISO on the wing or straight at the top. The issue becomes if we can guard that drive and occupy your eyes, the guys around you are all 7 foot tall. So you're driving into 2 7-footers with a guy guarding you. That's what makes the defense good. But teams do a lot what Hampton did. They just move the ball, move the ball, move the ball. Okay, now we're going to try to drive it. If we stop playing or spread out, that's when they usually get it. Now, we'll pressure the ball, but we don't want to spread out all over the court. But we're a good defensive team. We held them to 30% and 25 from the three. We fouled way too much today, but I mean, like I told the staff, you get up 35, it's hard. It's hard.
The next question's on the right side in the middle.
Gary Graves, Associated Press. Cal, Carl, he has had a couple bad, rough games foul-wise. Today, did he seem to come up with more energy to you and play a little bit smarter, not commit the fouls that drive you crazy?
Yeah, he was good. I mean, I think, again, he played 25 minutes today. We didn't play anybody more than 25. Well, somebody played 28. Tyler Eulis played 28. But in that time, he has 21 points and 11 rebounds. Now, the one thing I did tell him in the huddles, you have to respect the fact that we're throwing you the ball every time down. And if you get double teamed, you must pass it because you got to respect the guys that are passing you the ball. So if we do, and Hampton didn't trap, which is why he had all those baskets. Willie had the same baskets and missed them. Dakari had the same baskets and missed them. Carl made all his. But if they do trap, which they started to on Carl later, you got to throw that ball out. You got to respect this team. Everyone can play, and they're always giving you the ball, which he will. He's a good kid. like I said, there were some good things today, but my message to them was real simple. You're not doing this on your terms, the way you want to do this. You got to come together. I've coached in this tournament, I don't know how many times, but I do know this. You have to play without giving up easy baskets, with creating good shots, trying to get easy baskets in transition offensive rebounds, putting the pressure back on the other team because seasons are over. Shots become a little harder unless you give them layups, unless you break down and do what you choose to do. And those are the messages I'm trying to give this very young team. There were 4 freshmen that played in their first NCAA tournament game today, 4. And you know what? They all performed pretty good.
Next question's on the left side in the front of the room.
Therese Walker, AP. John, do you mention some of the games, 3 one-point games here earlier today, first time that's ever happened at one arena in the tournament. Do you maybe mention that as you move forward to just how tight these games can be going forward?
Well, you know, I don't know if they watched the game. I watched the last 30 seconds. I happened to click it on of SMU and UCLA. I watched the last 30, so you know I'm like, what just happened? I watched 3 minutes of Villanova. I barely watch. I'm not watching any because it has no bearing on us. Now, whether they're watching them or not, I don't know. The thing I keep telling them, you could have a 12-point lead and it can evaporate quick, and then the stuff comes back on you. And most of the time, it's not so much what the other team does. They'd make a tough play or two. It's that you choose to break down, whether it's pick and roll, whether it's how you're playing the post, whether you give up on a play, you stop playing, you don't block out, and the guy gets a tip in. Those are the plays in this tournament that wipe you out. And this team hadn't done that all year. We didn't start the game the way we wanted to, but, you know, we're sitting here. What did we win by? We win by 23. We were up 30, whatever we were up. And I'm trying to get more out of these guys. But that's how I've coached them all year. They know that. If I don't think they play well, I'm not going to cheer them on. I did tell them, I woke up this morning and early, and the thought was in my mind, love your team. This is the time of the year you just love your team. And I told them, I said, I don't know where it came from, but it was love your team. And I told them, I love you guys, and it's unconditional, but I'm still going to coach you. But it's time that I shouldn't have to do as much. Really shouldn't. They know what to do. It should be way less of me and way more of them. Go do this. And I said, I'm loving you. You got to love each other. Let's go have some fun and do this.
We have time for a final question in the back on the right side.
Will Clark, News Radio 840 WHAS. I know over the next day you'll take a more in-depth look at Cincinnati, but just going into this, is there anything you know about the Bearcats off the top?
Well, I know they've played a lot of zone, and I know they're very physical and they play tough. They've got guys that aren't going to be afraid of us. If there are points of this game they watch tonight, they probably have in their mind, we can beat these guys. We know every team we play comes in with the idea, I'm telling you we can beat them. And we deal with that every time we play, and I imagine Cincy will come in with the same thing. I think, like I said, Larry's done a great job with this guy, and it was a tough thing when, you know, the head coach and all of a sudden Larry steps in, and I think he's done a good job. Mick, I don't know if Mick's down here. Somebody told me he may be down here, but he is. That's great. Mick's a good guy. But it was a great win today. That game they won was a great win. That's just, you know, fighting and getting yourself back, and it's a great win for them, great win for their program.
We'd like to thank Coach Calipari for joining us here in the main interview room. We'll see him in about